So I was scrolling through all my news articles and I saw something that looked pretty interesting. So Snow White, we all know how bad that all is looking like, but actually it just turns out as of today, it has crossed 1 million dislikes. And that is insane to think about, especially because if you're comparing how many likes it has, it's currently sitting at 80,000 likes. So that's probably not a very good ratio, and it's not a good sign that people are going to particularly like this movie. But I can't blame anyone at all because honestly, this Snow White movie is just looking like a giant mess to begin with. This is not looking good at all. It's even interesting because the people who are actually working behind the camera are really talented people. Greta Gerwig is the writer of this film. Mark Webb, who did 500 Days of Summer, he's a brilliant director. But they're just making some of the most absurd decisions that you could possibly make in this movie. So let's just start with the obvious. The CGI dwarves. Peter Dinklage, what he said about that was one of the most idiotic things I've ever heard anyone say. So let's just look how many little people actually get a role like this. Like, a role in movies is in general. Not very often. And so when you have people that can actually play this role, that's the movie's designed for them to play these dwarf characters. No, no, no. All of a sudden it's bad. It's evil for Hollywood to be doing. You shouldn't be doing that. So let's instead create one of the most ugliest CGI characters ever created, I'd argue. Oh, but let's also not forget what Rachel Zegler said about this movie. All the things that she was saying, which is just absurd. It is so absurd that people, I mean, not just people, her specifically thinks about Snow White. And it confuses me, especially because this is not a movie that takes place. This takes place in Europe, and I'm sorry. At that time when this movie takes place, there wasn't a whole lot of diversity in Europe. That's all I'm going to say about that. I'm not going to go on that tangent. But everything that's building around this movie is just one bad thing after another. Even the budget, which there's some people saying is around 200 million, some people are saying it's 300 million. Like, they've had to spend a lot of money on this movie, and it feels like it's just bound to be just a big misstep by Disney, which sucks because they were on the right track for this. Everything was looking good. I mean, they started with Pixar with having Inside Out 2 being the highest grossing movie of the year, and let's be honest, this is not going to be a movie that beats it. That's what's going to be the highest grossing film of the year. And then you got Deadpool and Wolverine, which might end up being probably the second highest grossing movie of the year. I don't know if yeah. It's the second highest grossing movie of the year. I don't know what I was thinking about earlier. But still, this is a very good year for Disney. And then they're just going to go back to what the previous 3 years were like. It's just seeming like they were doing so good. It's just this movie is looking like it's going to be just so terrible. And it sucks because Snow White's such a classic story. I'm really starting to. I was never against the Disney live action remakes. I wasn't for them either. But as this continue going on, this is starting to just become more and more worse, and just to the point where like they should just stop with this stuff. Just stop doing all the remakes. You've made some good movies. That Aladdin remake, that was actually a good movie. But outside of that, what other hits have you made? And it's starting to become to the point where like there's just no point in doing this anymore. There's no point in these live action remakes because they're not working. People don't like them. Critics don't like them. Nobody enjoys these movies. And so what's the audience for them? Like, you had one big hit with Lion King, and now you're making that awful looking Mufasa movie. And I mean, just the point is, they just need to stop this. They need to stop while they're ahead and just realize this is not the right decision. Let's go back to, I don't know, making more original movies. Maybe something like Woman in the Sea, which, by the way, got like, it played in like three theaters in America, and then it went on Disney Plus. Imagine if that played in theaters. I don't understand the logic of putting a movie straight on Disney Plus. Okay, I'm going to stop myself because I'm going to go down a totally different subject. but make more movies like that. I remember when Disney, like, they did like these random live action movies that were honestly pretty good. Like, they made some really good films like that, and just go back to doing that. Maybe just, I mean, you're a massive company. Try to slowly start to remind people that, hey, we should go see original stories more often, not all these big franchises, IPs. And I don't have a problem against IP movies. I just feel like we need to remind general audiences that IPs aren't the only movies that we can go to. And there's another thing about that. People are always complaining about, oh, weren't there more original movies like that, like this and that. You want to know what happened? You want to know what happened with The Fall Guy? Yeah, that was an original movie. Guess what? That happened with that. Original movies are not even making like these big box office numbers like what a lot of people like to make it out to be. And granted, there's a lot more sequels and remakes and stuff like that that are based on other stuff that are populating the film, just all the film schedule. But if you look at a lot of these original stories, a lot of them aren't making as much money as what people like to make it out to be. And so going back to what this whole video is about, Snow White. Oh boy, I completely like to go off the rails all the time. This is just, it's looking like just a giant mess. And I mean, you want anything from Warner Brothers, maybe if it's a bad movie, use it as a tax write-off. Just saying. I know that shouldn't be the solution anymore for films like this, but man, it's just looking so bad. It's looking so genuinely terrible. And I remember watching the trailer. The trailer didn't look good at all. And I mean, you also got Gal Gadot, who, by the way, is a terrible actress. I just want to point that out. She cannot act, and I really wish people would stop pretending like she can. She did pretty decent with Wonder Woman, the first one. The second one, that one's a stinker. But she isn't a good actress anymore, and I genuinely don't understand how she's getting work. She's not that good. She shouldn't be getting all these big roles in movies. I'd rather see someone who can actually act be in all these movies. I'll go on a tangent about her. I do not like her at all. I wouldn't say I hate her, but she's just, she did a big Wonder Woman movie, and then what? What has she done that's actually genuinely impressed me? There's nothing. She's just not a good actress at all. And you have all these things just going against this movie. I mean, we all know how it's going to be. Nobody's going to go watch it in the theaters. It's just going to happen. People are going to completely forget about that movie in a week, and it's just going to be a massive loss for Disney. And it sucks because, like I said, they were on a good roll. They were actually making some good movies, making a lot of money. But there we go. I feel like it's just been one thing after another with Disney. They just man, I don't know what's going on with them. But I mean, did you watch the trailer? I mean, what did you think? Do you agree with me? Disagree with me? I mean, did you think that the trailers actually look really good? Do you really like that little glob of CGI that they call dwarves? Oh man, this is so bad. But yeah, like and subscribe, share it if you want. I mean, it all really helps me out a lot. I really greatly appreciate it. And that's really it. Snow White looks like it's going to be a terrible movie. Maybe I'll go see it. Who knows what's going to happen? I don't even know what's going to happen next week, let alone, what, months from now. But anyways, that's really all I have to say. So I mean, until next time, it's movie talk. See ya.